What's up, everybody? Andrew Mahone here with Otto.
What's up?
We are going to be showing off Otto's 11th place deck from the Collinsville Regional Championships. Congrats, Otto.
Thank you, thank you.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about what we got here.
Okay, so we have got Vileplume and some stall boys. That's pretty much it.
So we heard a little bit about Vileplume leading up to the Collinsville Regional Championships. It's got this disgusting ability.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting.
Yeah. As long as this Pokemon's in your active, as long as this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, your opponent's basic Pokemon can't attack. Disgusting pollen there. Very cool. I think we kind of first caught whiff of this Pokemon. It was a Japanese deck that was playing it, I think.
Yeah, the world champion Shintaro Ito got third at Champions League with an attacking Vileplume deck.
So that kind of got the, kind of
The
creative
Twitter sphere,
gears
yeah.
turning.
Yeah.
The Twitter sphere caught whiff of this. And your testing group in particular started looking at Vileplume as a possible stall action,
Right.
Stall deck.
Yeah.
Would you walk me through a little bit what led you guys to consider Vileplume as a viable option for regional championship?
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, we were comfortable on Zoroark, and we were thinking there has to be something out there. OCIC had just happened the weekend before, and, nothing new came out that we didn't expect. Like the Zapdos, the Mally, the Zoroark, all of that showed up, the Pikarom, and it was like, oh, well, I feel like we were hoping something spicy would come out, and we could kind of work with it, and then we were hoping that once we saw the results, we'd come up with something spicy, and then nothing was really, churning.
Sure.
And then I saw the Vileplume, the attacking Vileplume, and then I immediately thought, okay, it's pretty good versus Zapdos. It's pretty good versus Pikarom.
Sure.
But then I was like, okay, well, how do you beat, Zoroark? How do you beat, Malamar, right? So then I remembered I'd played a cup the week before, and I'd played Zoroark, and I got destroyed by John Mostowi playing a stall deck. It was literally all the other cards, essentially. He had Circuitry and Hoopa and Wailord and everything, and I got destroyed by that. And I was like, well, if that deck beats Zoroark, then why not just, mix the two?
Sure.
And so Riley had already been working on a list that was inspired by Michael Catron when I reached out to him, and so we kind of just pooled our resources together, and we made this monstrosity.
Yeah, and a monstrosity it is. Okay, there is a whole lot going on here in this deck. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the various pieces in the deck and what each is used for? Obviously,
Sure.
We got, Regigigas, the Hoopa, the Shuckle. Tell me a little bit about how each part is useful.
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, each of these stall Pokemon is useful in a very different situation.
Sure.
Regigigas is great against Zoroark because they can't knock it. I mean, they can if they use a Lycanroc, but they're very limited on energy, so you're actually forcing them to put 2 attachments, which they'll never do in this matchup if you're denying them energy. So Regigigas is really good to sit in front of a Zoroark and just tank shots. Like if you Max Potion, Acerola between 2 Regigigas, you can buy so many turns to kind of get all the pieces that you need to deny the Zoroark their energy.
Yeah.
The Hoopa is really good for matches like Pikarom, and it's really good for Ultra Mally. In the Mally matchup, they don't have anything that can knock it out in one hit. They have to go in with a heavy retreat Giratina, which is, easy bait to trap in the active and lock it up. Or they're using Malamar, which 3-shots it. So you have, literally the end of time to save it each turn while you're just denying them energy and trying to trap something active.
Right.
The Vileplume, obviously very good against Zapdos, very good against Pikarom if you can get them out.
Sure.
It's still good if they play things like Jolteon too. You just kind of have to be a little bit smarter about when you're throwing it up active and what you're pivoting between if you're switching or healing.
Right.
And then we've got the Shuckle, which was kind of like a bait Pokemon. Its Protective Shell is really good, but a lot of decks can put more than 2 energy on the attacker. But it forces that, and then it also forces Muck if they have the Muck. And I like the Muck to come down because the Muck has 4 retreat cost, and we can just Counter Catcher that boy up, lock him in the active, and just mill them.
And then also, if you force your opponent to put multiple energy on a Pokemon, you can't come in with
the Cold Crush. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, this card was huge. Deny like a 6 to 7 energy Pikarom that's ready to tag bolt. It's Blacephalon that has 3 to 4 energy on it. So you can Shuckle, they put extra energy on. You can Wondrous Labyrinth, they put another extra energy on. And then Articuno comes in and just knocks all the energy off.
Absolutely. And then, of course, the Magikarp and Wailord.
Yeah, this is like my favorite card in the deck. It's just so hard to kill this thing. Like, there were certainly very many turns I was, like, greedy. Like, a Zoroark would hit me for 120, and I would not Acerola or Max Potion because I'm like, you're not doing 180. Like, I've looked through your discard. You've used your Kukui already. It's probably unlikely. So this thing could just take so many shots. It forces them to burn resources to knock it out. And if you're just denying the knockout while they burn resources, you're pretty much winning the game.
Right. So talk a little bit more about winning the game with this thing. As we see, there is one energy in this deck.
Yeah.
It's one rainbow energy, which can allow you to, I guess, Wrap GX.
I did Wrap once
Triple
during the
Poison.
tournament. Yeah.
And then also Cold Crush GX.
Mm-hmm. Rainbow's...
Why a rainbow and not just a
water?
Yeah.
So the rainbow was really good for the Acerola.
Okay.
So we'd get to these board states where if you did put too many Pokemon down to like set up the plume, they could have enough prizes to knock out the plume. So Pikarom, if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Pikarom's win con, even if it plays no evolutions, can just tag bolt the plume on the bench.
Yes.
So
because Disgusting Pollen only stops them if Vileplume's active.
Exactly. So we needed a way to get all the things out of the active, right?
Right.
So if you have something else in play, you could just Rainbow, Acerola, pick it up right there.
Very cool.
So that was one way to kind of use that Rainbow to play around. It also helped you get Unown in the active too. So when you draw a huge hand and you're going for the Unown hand, you can Rainbow the active, Acerola it up.
Really smart. Cool.
Yep.
So that way you don't need your one of Tate Liza in order to switch.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. And then also, talk to me a little bit about winning the game.
Sure. So there's
with
like
this deck. There's
multiple
like
win
conditions. Yeah.
Yeah. So deck out was like deck out would have been half of my win cons. Obviously, in a best of 3 tournament, my opponents think they might have a better shot in game 2, so they'll scoop.
Okay.
So deck out was about half the games. I got the Unown hand out maybe like a fourth of my games. Most people knew they lost, so they didn't let me do it.
Sure.
If that makes sense. But those two would probably be like half and half if like the games played out to their fullest.
Right.
I would either go for Unown hand, or I've used too many resources, but I've used fewer than my opponent, and then I just deck them out.
Yeah. So crazy stuff there. Did you have any wins by rage quit?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that happened a lot. And it was actually pretty nice of my opponents because, like, I mean, if you know you can't win and you have no way to win, then, like, why are we sitting here playing endless rounds? I mean, an endless game.
50 minutes, you could just, cut your losses and go get a little lunch break.
Yeah, exactly, right.
I could, go visit the vendors. We could all just, settle this a lot easier if you just get up and leave.
Exactly, yeah. It's a lot less painful that way.
Uh-huh. But, surely, I don't know if I could do it. I did play against this deck once during Swiss. It was really, really tough. The deck can actually, fail to launch sometimes, especially if there are hand disruption cards in the mix.
Like Judge and Marshadow are pretty good. So.
Exactly.
And you knew how to play the matchup, too, so you knew to be smart with your Judge, I'm sure. So,
talk to me a little bit about the draw engine in this deck.
Yeah.
Rely mainly on Bills and Stevens. Talk to me a little bit about the tempo of playing those two cards and setting up your hand that way.
Yeah, so Stevens is actually just the only card you really want to see. The Bills is kind of just like
to help
the
you find
Stevens
them.
out. Yeah. It's like, oh, it's not in my first hand of 7. Maybe it'll be in the second hand of 7,
Sure.
And then we played the Harleys, which were also very busted in the deck. This was Riley's edition the night before because we were 50-50 versus Pikarom the night before, and we were not drawing well. Because, like, in that matchup, you need to get the outs fast.
Yeah.
In other matchups, you have a few turns because they can't KO everything, but Pikarom just goes 0 to 60 so fast.
Yeah.
So, like, we need something. And the Harleys, what we called them, kind of juiced the deck up to really get all the pieces we needed.
Right. So that's really cool, and I did notice playing against this deck, the Stevens Resolve really is the lifeblood of this deck.
Oh, yeah.
Because once you Stevens Resolve, you can get more Stevens Resolves.
Yes, almost every Stevens Resolve I get is for 2 cards plus another Stevens.
Or a Lusamine at least,
Yeah.
to get yourself another Stevens back eventually. Yes. So, like, it's one of those two. So that's really cool. And 2 copies of Gladion. What interesting pieces, what kind of essential pieces did you need to find with Gladion?
Gladion is probably one of the most played supporters I had in the deck.
Okay.
I played one probably every game because, like, 6 cards being prized, if you look at all these things, there's almost certainly one of these important pieces that you need in a matchup is going to be prized.
Sure.
If you're playing a Zoroark, an Enhanced Hammer, if you need the Life Forest in a matchup, the Wondrous Lab, another Stevens or something. The Gladion was just, like, huge to just, like, especially if, because I was taking notes, which was really important, so I would, like, do my deck search, figure out what was prized, and then decide if I need to Gladion that turn for whatever I needed. So, like, if Unknown was prized, like, and you need to win with Unknown, then you need to go get it from the prizes. So
Right. That's really cool. And I think that, just as far as the meta goes, it was an excellent call. I think that, the deck definitely operated smoothly from what I could tell. It was very, very consistent at doing what it needed to do every single turn. So why don't you talk to me a little bit about your matchups? You ended the day one, 5-0-4?
Yeah, I ended 5-0-4. I kind of really just crawled to the finish line there on day one.
I was astonished that it even qualified for day 2, but I guess 4 ties is the same as 2 losses and 1 tie. So
or 1 win and 1 tie.
1 win. Okay, yeah, 1 win and 1 tie.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it puts me at 6-2-1 with the conversion there. Yeah. So I mean, day 1 was kind of rough. I actually played 2, not mirror matches, but I played against 2 stall decks.
Wow.
Yeah. And I should not have, in hindsight, but I ID'd against the first one I played. We both flipped over Regigigas, and I was like, let's ID this one. Because I was like, I'm only going to see 1 today. I can take an ID if counted as a loss. It's, like, totally fine.
Sure.
And I didn't want to play, like, the coin flip of it. But at the end of day 2, I've realized that our Plume deck was probably the best one.
Yeah.
Because we had the deepest runs, and it was the most consistent. So I probably should have played that one out because I bubbled out of top 8 without a win. So 1 more tie or a win would have gotten me there. And so that round I should have probably played it out. But I didn't think I'd see another one. I ended up playing a Sylveon, and that was just an infinite match, and we both realized that and ID'd. He played Judge and no Unknown Hand. I played Unknown Hand, so I'd get up to 35, and he'd judge me down, and he'd Lusamine for his Judge.
And made sure it never happened.
Yeah, and so I would go all the way back up to 35, and he would judge me down. And you
couldn't deck each other out.
No, we can't deck each other out because we can just Lusamine all of our things back.
Yeah.
So that was there was no way to win that one, so we ID'd that one as well. So that I was like really forced into these ties, and then I had a game where I got donked game 1, which is awful.
Right.
And then I won game 2, but
you're never gonna.
It was so long, and it takes forever to play game 3 sometimes. And so, I had to tie that one. So really, I didn't want all these ties, but I kind of walked into it a little bit.
Because if you're a player who's playing against a stall deck and you get lucky and you have a bad matchup against a stall deck, you know this, and you get lucky and you donk your opponent's stall Pokemon, you're playing game 2 out entirely. Yeah. You're gonna make your opponent get the win con.
Yeah,
absolutely. You're not scooping.
No.
And so you're just going to go in, and you know what? If it takes you 40 minutes to win this game, you can't do that twice.
Yeah.
So you're just guaranteeing, as that player, you're like, so long as I don't scoop, I've guaranteed myself the tie.
Right. I mean, and people even did it in bad faith too. Like one of Riley's opponents would just play shuffle cards every single turn.
Yeah.
Even though he was completely locked out of the game,
yeah.
he just played shuffle cards so that Riley couldn't win.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I think he used the rules to his advantage, but it is a little bit in bad taste. So it's just,
right. I understand. It's like, you're playing a deck that's trying to win on an alternative win condition and a 50-minute best of 3 format. It's you're gonna run into some roadblocks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we expected that going in too. So.
Yeah, for sure. So you had a couple of unfortunate ties, and then obviously, a couple matchups just didn't go your way. So you're starting off day 2 with 5-0-4. You're at 19 match points, and you need to get to 34 in order to potentially make top 8.
And that's what we did. We got to 34. I was hoping for 35. Actually, day 2 cleaned out all of the the fringe decks.
Yeah.
And this is like a meta call, right? So
It is.
I'm hoping to play against meta. That's why when I played 2 mirrors or 2 stall decks day 1, I was very upset because, you know, Riley didn't lose any games except for a donk in his day 1. So, like, I was hoping for a similar situation, and I didn't. So going into day 2, I had to win everything, but actually all the decks were good for me.
Right.
Because, like, now all the meta decks had filtered, the ones that we expected to see were there, and so I was having a heyday, basically, in day 2.
Right. So what was your record day 2, though?
Day 2, I went 5-1.
Oh, it's excellent. And your one loss was to what?
An absolute auto loss. Like, there is no chance anywhere anyone beats it because I played against Rahul and he was playing a 2-2 Jolteon line. So like him prizing all of it is almost impossible.
Right.
And even then he'll take enough prizes to get the pieces out.
Sure.
And then on top of that, he plays Zera Aura. So like Jolteon Zapdos is like beatable because you can trap something, but he played Zera Aura. Not only did that give him free retreat to get out of the active, he could GX to put energies back into play, right? So if like I'm denying him energies, like he just GX and puts it all back. Horrible. It was awful. Like I just could not win that one at all, no matter what I did. I like very much realized that when we were playing, and he just kept putting the outs down, and I'm sitting there like, oh my god, like this is
getting worse and worse.
Yeah, this is gonna ruin it.
Right.
And I needed Rahul to go to top 8 because he just needed a win after our round.
Yeah.
Because that would have brought my resistance up. But then he lost after that, and so it really set me back to bubble out of top 8.
Yeah. So you finished with 34 match points. 11th place. Definitely a bummer. But I do see that you also played against Zoroark Persian. Was that Benjamin? We were rooming with him, right?
Yes. That is a crazy situation. One of our roommates saw the power of the stall deck, and he also was thinking that, you know, maybe some like players like DDG would be playing this deck if it was that good.
Sure.
And so he teched in an Alolan Persian, which
Not
is actually...
an Alolan Persian.
Oh, just a regular Persian. You're
regular
right.
Persian, yeah.
You're right. Which is actually very good in the mirror for the stall. If I could change a card, I would go and put in, somehow fit a Persian in here because that's how you guarantee yourself the mirror win.
Right.
But, so he played this Persian, and it basically discards your hand, but he gets to pick the cards until you have 4 left. So, you know, if I have like a big 20-card hand, he could pick all the cards. He could put all the Lusamines in the discard so I can't loop. He could put the Unknown and the Rainbow in the discard. And so that was like probably one of the hardest matchups I had to play because the first game I was just like trying to keep my hand at 4.
And it's not something that you practiced before.
No.
Like trying to play within a 4-card hand, knowing that any card over 4 is a goner.
Yes,
you know?
and not even that, not even that any card. It's like the best card in my hand would be a goner.
Yes.
And it's usually an important card. So that scared the crap out of me. So I'm sitting there like, I just need to really get all these things out.
Yeah. Excellent, man. Well, very cool.
Yeah.
So any other shout-outs or anything like that before we sign off for today?
Sure. So shout out to Riley and the rest of the Garden gang, Beckett, Adler, and Dankus for believing in the deck, playing it, helping test with it. We spent like at least 3 or 4 days before the tournament just like grinding out matchups, trying to convince each other to play it. They all really pulled their weight, and Riley especially with a lot of the techs in the deck. And then shout out to Andrew for playing a whole bunch of games with me so that I didn't feel I felt very confident going into the tournament because I had some game experience with it. And then shout out to Full Grip Games, obviously, for hooking up with me with all the cards, supporting me in day 1 and day 2. They're an awesome store, so shout out to all of those guys.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. Well, congrats again, Otto, and thanks for joining us here.
Of course.
And you guys can check out this list in the description below. Thank you all so much for watching the video. Make sure to give the video a like and also sub to the channel. And check us out on twitch.tv/TrickyJim, where I stream on weeknights. Otto is on stream all the time Wednesday nights for the shop tournament. So make sure to check us out there as well. Take it easy. Peace.